Hey, Dr. Amanda English here. Welcome back and thanks for having me back. And we are just going to continue this video series on the Invisible Tears Series 1, Genetics of Alcoholism. So now we're getting into the nitty gritty. Genetic differences in alcohol dependence. So genetics play a vital role in how the body and brain operate, right? The brain's part of the body. Studies show significant genetic differences between alcoholics and non-alcoholics, even in relation to habit versus full dependence. Indeed, there is a spectrum. So, analogous to other things that we know, like autism spectrum, there's mild and moderate and high level. Okay, so same thing with this condition, there's a spectrum of it. This is precisely why no one individual's disease may be compared to another. Okay, and we don't do that with anything else, right? We don't compare one person's diabetes to another, or heart condition to another, or cancer to another. We don't say things or question things like, well, that medication worked for them, why not for you? Or they're getting better, why aren't you? Or they only needed one round of treatment, why do you need more? We don't do that for other things. So why do we do that for things like addiction? So a large research study found over 400 locations in the human genome related to smoking or alcohol use, and many times those come together. And over 566 variants of those genes. So you take the locations and the variants of those, the combinations are exponential. Okay, so there's so many factors involved in this condition. um, this alone indicated that the causes and types of alcoholism, genetically speaking, are exponential. These genetic factors, in combination with environmental influences and epigenetics, play a crucial role in an individual's susceptibility and degree of alcoholism. All right, so genes are crucial for alcohol metabolism and significantly affect a person's tolerance and dependence on alcohol, marking them as critical targets for understanding alcoholism. Okay, this is, this disorder, disease, condition, whatever you want to name it, it's all, um, they're understanding more about it. They know there's genetic links to it, but they're still unraveling it. It's still a very, mysterious disease, and and again, there's no one size fits all. Just like for any other condition, there's no one size fits all. So, role of genetic variants. Here is a very minuscule list of genes that play a role in alcoholism and a brief descriptions of the genetic role. So, this is just a small little sample just to give you some idea. And of course, I'm not going to go through all these. You can pause it and zoom in if you need to. But let's take, for example, ALDH2. It is responsible for detoxification of acetaldehyde and alcohol sensitivity. So ALDH2 is one of those genes that plays a role in excreting the byproducts of alcohol. So we'll touch on that here more in a moment. There's genes involved in alcohol metabolism, the brain's regulatory system, the dopamine system, other types of neurotransmitters and reward systems, behavior. There's genetic links to aggression with alcohol use, serotonin transport and mood regulation. We'll talk about serotonin more here in a moment. Stress response and alcoholism, the role of stress and addiction, opioid receptors and alcohol dependency. I mean, there's just, this is just to give you a sample that there's a vast array of genes and the roles that they play. And not only do they play a role, but they interplay with the other genes. So, interactions or interplay. The development of alcoholism is influenced not just by genetic predispositions, but also by environmental factors, including diet, lifestyle, and exposure to stress, especially chronic stress. Now, if you have deficiencies in serotonin, for example, you're going to have a more heightened response to stress. Epigenetics plays a pivotal role, as environmental stressors can modify gene expression, potentially leading to heightened susceptibility to alcoholism. So, these other influential factors can turn our genes on or off. They can turn the expressions on or off. So, alcohol metabolism. Again, genetics plays a vital role in how alcohol is metabolized in certain individuals. For example, alcohol is primarily metabolized in the liver by enzymes such as alcohol dehydrogenase, or ADH, and aldehyde dehydrogenase, ALDH. Genetic variations in these enzymes can lead to differences in yielded byproducts that are then stored in the brain rather than being excreted. Okay, so one thing that they found in individuals with certain types of alcoholism is that, in a normal individual that drinks alcohol, all of the waste is eventually excreted. Okay. In an individual with a certain genetic predisposition, the byproducts that are yielded are not excreted. That the byproducts are different. Not only are they different, they're not excreted, and they get stored in the brain. Okay, so think about that for a moment. And these things can exacerbate conditions that already exist. Neurological implications. So, alcohol consumption affects brain structure and function, influencing mood and emotional regulation. Variations of metabolized byproducts may fuel chronic use, like we just talked about, further altering neural circuits involved in reward processings. So, we, most of us have some type of imbalance, deficiency, malformed ratio of different types of neurotransmitters. And this is not something that we consciously do. Again, these are genetic factors and they're epigenetic factors. So, alcohol modulates various neurotransmitters, including dopamine and GABA, impacting pleasure and anxiety levels. This regulation can contribute to the reinforcement of alcohol use, exacerbating cravings and dependency. So again, these are automatic things that happen in the brain. These are not conscious things. We don't say, okay, serotonin, you need to raise up, and that happens. All right. Okay, so let's look at serotonin, talking about the impacts of neurotransmitters. So, serotonin is another key neurotransmitter. Oftentimes, those who become dependent upon alcohol already have a prior deficiency in serotonin. And here towards the end of this video series, we will, concerning series 1 of the book, we will look at a chart and look closer into this. But serotonin deficiency may manifest as things such as chronic anxiety, trouble sleeping, different things like that, right? And we normally associate serotonin with sleeping and being calm, right? Through metabolic processes, alcohol raises serotonin levels, which the brain and body then identifies as the solution to the deficiency. In chronic users, the body then becomes dependent upon alcohol for supply of serotonin. So when we get a constant supply of neurotransmitters from any source, even like psychiatric medications, for example, that's a good analogy. when we take psychiatric medications, many of them, they are supplying a synthetic version of a neurotransmitter. Many times, sometimes they can block neurotransmitters, different things like that. But we'll just say, for example, ones that supply synthetic neurotransmitters, our body becomes dependent on that because once it's supplied by something, it stops signaling to the body to produce that. So the body adjusts to no longer producing that itself, right? So, that's what happens with people who are chronic drinkers of alcohol. Um, their body becomes dependent on that supply of serotonin. So, and serotonin is a key player in many autonomic or automatic processes, such as breathing and heart rate. All right. So it's not just about how you're feeling. They have specific functions that regulate the body and keep the body alive. So this is why it's vitally crucial for someone experiencing withdrawals to seek medical attention. In an attempt to cease consumption, a sudden drop in serotonin may lead to things such as seizures, cardiac arrest, and/or respiratory arrest, which may be fatal. So, a side note here is this is also why the next drink comes before any basic necessity of life. For people in this condition, that supply of serotonin is keeping them alive, literally, oftentimes. Okay, so that's why it just takes priority over anything and everything. Right, hormonal influences. So just like everything else in the rest of the body, they all interact. One affects the other and vice versa. So alcohol alters the release of hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, influencing stress responses. Elevated cortisol levels are linked to increased alcohol consumption as the body attempts to cope with stress. So, two things I want to mention here. Oftentimes, going back again to the serotonin deficiency, and I keep referencing that because, again, oftentimes people who are deficient in certain neurotransmitters and have certain genetic factors, they already have high chronic stress levels, high stress responses that even are physical stress responses that, that are just automatic. And so then, the alcohol raises the cortisol levels. So you're stuck in a catch-22, just snowballing, right? And and I highlighted the body attempts to cope with stress. So that's kind of what our bodies do. Like, even when it comes to food cravings and things like that, it's not something we really are consciously aware of, but our body is searching for a way to supply certain endorphins and different neurotransmitters and things like that. So that is, that is it as far as touching on the genetics of things. And, if you want to go more in depth with that, I definitely encourage you to just get the book and read it. It's a free PDF version. So, at the end of the next video, I'll tell you how to get that. But if you go to theremnantrise.org, click on the Invisible Tears tab, you can just put in your name and email and get a free copy of that PDF. So when we come back in the next video, we will take a look at professional help and different types of avenues of help and support and different things in that realm. So, and I have some really cool things for you towards the end that's really going to just give you a totally different perspective, not only on alcoholism and addiction, but on a lot of other diseases and conditions as well. And also a very, very, what I feel is a very important tip for, for you to begin to kind of relate to a person or a loved one who might be experiencing, battling, and suffering through this disease or disorder. So we will talk about that, and I will see you in the next video. Go take a break. See you back. Blessings.